Hello and welcome to Amplify with Purpose. Please bear with us as we go live on the various platforms and all the fun things. There we go. Welcome to Amplify with Purpose, the podcast where we explore what it takes to live well and lead with purpose. We discuss everything from nuanced business strategies to transformative leadership and personal development. In every episode, you'll find heartfelt conversations and discussions around practical tips designed to help you live your best life. My mission is to help you live a life on purpose and amplify your impact. So whether you're looking to amplify your business, enrich your personal experiences, or just find a little bit of inspiration, you're in the right place. I am really happy to have back one of our special guests, Dr. Janine Do Cabo In, on the show today. Dr. Janine is the author of Intentional and It Is Finished. She's also the managing director of JDC Group of Companies. And Dr. Janine brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to our discussion in a variety of spaces. And today is no different. Dr. J, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Odette. It's always great to be here and to add value. I'm looking forward to one of my favorite topics that we're discussing today.
So for those of you who may have seen some interesting headlines, the headline for today is actually how to master work-life balance, or what we like to talk about actually is work-life integration. Dr. Janine, how do you manage family life, leading multiple companies, and how would you define your work-life balance journey?
Nowadays, for me, I think it comes down to what we said. It's work-life integration, not work-life balance. And it's about creating that synergy between my personal and my professional life rather than keeping them separate. Because we're not trying to get that balance, we're trying to get them to work together. So instead of striving for that balance, which then implies this equal distribution of time, which is very difficult for most of us to do, I rather focus on integrating my roles as a wife, a mother, a leader, and an entrepreneur. My work and life are now intertwined with each other in a way that makes them mutually supportive. And I think that's the word we want to focus on, is mutually supportive, and then brings fulfillment, because that's just as important, as brings fulfillment and purpose to both of those areas. Because I deal with a lot of businessmen and women, and they don't have fulfillment in one or the other. The other financially extremely successful, but their marriage is falling apart, or their marriage is extremely is successful, or their children, their family part, but business is falling apart. So it's about that finding that mutual integration between the two, where you find purpose as well as fulfillment. So that is what I strive to do, is not to create the balance, but rather the integration of both to create that fulfillment. I think for me, that's very important.
And why is that important? Why should we integrate? Why do we want to be happy?
I think the work-life balance, if we go back to that for a second, is it suggests that there's this perfect equilibrium that we want to achieve, but it's not always realistic. I think that's the thing. It's not always realistic, especially when you have multiple roles. And I fulfill multiple roles, and most people do. You either a wife, a husband, you're a father, you're a mother, you're an entrepreneur, or you're working for somebody. So you're fulfilling these multiple roles, trying to create this balance that you're striving for, but something is always out of balance. So that's why we need to do it. This integration allows us now to shift our focus fluidly between the roles, depending on what's most pressing at the time. Because sometimes you need to be at that soccer or that rugby game in the afternoon, or you need to go to that netball game that your child is playing. You've also got a deadline that needs to be finished. So how do you then move fluidly between these roles? And it's about aligning your professional as well as your personal goals. We spoke about it just before the show. It's about the fulfillment. It's about getting to all the things. And if I do that, and when I do that, I can then fully represent or be present in that area where I'm feeling or where I'm at. Because when I'm then at the rugby or at the school, I can be fully present in that moment, and I'm not neglecting one or the other. I think it's a
Mm,
more dynamic approach, and it empowers me to prioritize based on my values rather than my schedule.
yeah,
So I think that for me is huge.
yeah.
Is I'm prioritizing based on my values and not my schedule.
I
So,
like that.
but
I agree.
yeah, I can ask you the same question. So for me is what are some of those specific strategic or strategies that you use now that you integrate in your personal professional life? Because you also lead a family and a leadership role. So how do you now incorporate those strategies into all the things in your life?
So I'm a really big fan of back to basics. Most of my conversations normally end up with, let's just go back to basics. Because for me, the key to successful integration is the basics of clarity, accountability, and consistency. The reality is that we all know how to succeed and we all know how to be happy. It's very simple. And because it's so simple, it's also very easy not to do. So Brene Brown says it the best: to be clear is to be kind. So whether it's my family or my business or the teams that I'm leading or the places in which I serve, I strive to be clear. Now, that does not mean that I get it right. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect. It means that my intention is to be clear and not vague. And when I am clear, then I'm clear about the kind of things that are important. So, what does success look like in the business? What does success look like in the team? What do I want to feel if I do this thing? What do I want my customers to feel? What do I want my family to feel? What do I want them to think? What are we trying to achieve collectively? It's about being clear about the things that are important to me or the business or the group of people or the goals that we want to achieve. And then how do we measure it? So if I want to have a really good holiday, I'm really thinking about my holiday right now. What does a good holiday look like? When I do the planning, is it about making sure that we spend lots of time together as a family? Is it about shopping a lot? Is it about having a balance or a tension between sitting next to the pool and doing nothing and also going sightseeing? So, what is it that we want to do? And let's be very clear about that. Now, the reality is clarity in absence of accountability means nothing. So, I have to take action and then hold myself accountable to that. The way that I do that, I also try to be clear where there's other people involved. We know what it looks like when we need to self correct. We have conversations about self correcting. We also have conversations about what happens if I don't do this thing. Then you have to speak to Auntie Odette. Nobody wants to speak to Auntie Odette. So we try and avoid that one, which is great because then we all do what we need to do. You unpack the dishwasher or you make sure that you've done what you needed to do in your role. And then it's about consistently showing up. So I don't have multiple calendars. I have one calendar because I have one life. This whole thing of personal calendar, work calendars, serving schedule, no, guys, I can't. It's too complicated. I have one calendar and I schedule everything in my calendar: dentist appointments, school stuff, family stuff, anniversaries, birthday reminders, birthday gift buying reminders, client things, work things, everything goes into my calendar. And then I go according to my calendar, and my calendar I set up. Someone didn't do it for me. When I just started working, someone said to me that you are either going to run your own time or someone's going to run it for you. So you decide what's important and what's not. Now that's a brave thing to do, to say, I'm going to choose what I attend and what I don't, especially if you're still fairly junior in an organization. But that's the reality. You were talking about prioritizing before. We have to prioritize. And I get to choose what I want to do and how I want to show up and what are the things that I show up to. And then once we've got those things in place, then it's about making sure that I go and do that thing consistently. If working out is important for you, put it in the calendar. I've got mine in my calendar. I've got the kids' assembly in the calendar because there are days where they have assembly. And no, they don't do spectacular things every time, but it's important for me to be there. So then I'd say no to a meeting so that I can be at the assembly. And where it's possible, I involve my family in my work life because they need to know, why is it important to me and why is it important to us if this thing works or doesn't work. I also then know where the space is. So when I plan things, I generally plan my rule of thumb is planning double the amount of time. So if I estimate it takes an hour, I double it because we underestimate how much we can do in 5 minutes and overestimate how much we can do in an hour. So then at least if it takes me 2 hours and I planned for one, it's okay because I knew it was going to happen. And then you just make sure that what you do aligns with your values. We talk about it often on the show. Values, what's your purpose? What do you need to stand for? What do you need to do in this life? And what I choose to do, as far as possible, aligns with my values. Otherwise, it creates cognitive dissonance. So, Dr. J, can you give us some interesting stories, real life examples, where there's been a challenge with this work life integration, work life balance? How did it put you to the test? And how did you manage this? Because it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a very big challenge, or I had a very big challenge recently where I was busy with a very big business project. And if I say very big, it was major. And my husband was traveling overseas for work, and the kids were having concert at the very same time. So that lasted about 2 weeks. So I had to make sure that neither one of these things suffered because everything still
Yeah.
had to happen. That's what happens most of the time. Just because you're going through a challenge, the world carries on and they still have the same expectation. So
Mm,
big business challenge, big school challenge, plus I had half of the help at home. So I had to make sure nobody
mm,
suffered. So instead of choosing between the two, I integrated them. So at the dinner table, we would discuss what mommy is busy with, what she's busy doing, and even ask them, how would you handle the situation? And in that way, they understood, listen, what mommy is busy with is really tough. Okay, daddy is not at home right now. So we need to, like you said, pack the dishwasher, help with some of the things that we don't normally do. And in doing that, we're actually helping all of us because now mommy is free and she's ready to take us wherever we need to go. The makeup is done,
yeah.
the dressing is done, everything is done, and we're literally ready to break a leg and be ready for some show business on all fronts. And I think for me, that was one
Mm,
of the big things. But instead of choosing, we integrated them. We discussed business at family time. And I found, like I said, involving the children and parts of the business processes, it helped them to understand why my attention right now is divided and I need your help and you need mine. So it was a
mm,
learning experience for all of us, but it also reinforced the idea of the integration rather than
mm,
that strict separation of saying, mommy's doing this, you doing this. We brought everything together. And what I loved about afterwards, where we could all just sit back and relax for a little bit and be like speaking about it, we laughed and we said, okay, that was quite fun. Do we want to repeat that? No. But we
yeah.
learned a couple of things, and
Yeah.
everything done at the end of the day, it brought understanding on all fronts for everybody to understand
Yeah.
that it's not just mommy stuff that's important. I value your things as well as important. And what the process you're going through and the stuff you've got going on is also
Yeah.
important. And everybody in the household starts to understand that there comes a time and a day that it's your turn and the focus is on you. And then we all just
Yeah.
put our stuff together and we help and support. And I think that brings, like I said, understanding, it brings support within the family. So it's a challenge, but it ended up being such an amazing celebration because my business
Mm,
project went well. Obviously, the concert went well, and everybody was able to celebrate it at the end. So that for me was
mm,
it can be a mess sometimes as well because sometimes the meeting is longer and you couldn't get to the sport as early as you wanted to. It's like you say, sometimes you have to double up. I
yeah.
love that. And the priorities, because I know because we spoke about this, the kids felt they were like, we felt important because I now know that you had to move some stuff around in order to be at the places that you need to be. I know this thing was important. I know this
Mm,
meeting had to happen. I know these coaching sessions had to happen, but still you move stuff around in your calendar so that you could be at the places where we wanted to be. And it goes the other way because now on Friday, when you wanted to go and visit a friend, you remembered, oh, you know what? It was a rough week. Let's just make it for next week. So it just teaches everybody
yeah.
to work together and to bring their part. And I love that. It's about realizing that true fulfillment comes from seeing your personal and professional lives as a greater whole, not just the one or just not the other, but seeing
Mm.
everything as a greater or the bigger picture. That's how I see it.
I love that. I love how that that's my kids integrating into my office. I love how everyone's chipped in and it's okay. It's not just about me. And I think it's important for us to create a space where everyone can understand it's not just
Yeah.
about you. Yes,
Yeah.
my stuff is important. Your stuff is important too. And there are
Mm.
times where the person who's important at the time is different. Sometimes it is the soccer game that needs to get preference, and sometimes it is the birthday party that we promised we would go to that needs to get preference. But the reality is that everyone has to chip in and it's a give and take. Sometimes I have to give, but sometimes I get to take. And when we create that culture in our families and in our organizations and in our teams, we knit things together very nicely because now I'm connected. Like I like talking about how you first have to connect to the heart. Connecting with someone to the heart, with your team, your kids, your whoever, when you say you're important, but at the moment we need to do this thing, doesn't take away from their importance. Now they
Yeah.
feel important. So the next time you say, look, I can't do this thing right now, it's not that rebellious pushback. It's that, okay, I get it. This is not the time. I'm learning to read the room. Maybe I
Yeah.
need to hang back. That's beautiful.
It is. And you mentioned a couple of things there now, and let's integrate into the more professional side of things. But as a leader, Odette, how do you encourage this work life integration within a team and not just your family? And especially when business often demands 100% of your focus. How do you do that then? How do you integrate them?
So my very first learning when I was at bank, what feels like a lifetime ago, I worked for a leader who one day looked at me and said, Odette, if you need to go cut your hair during work hours, then you go. And I was like, wait, what? Excuse me? And he said to me, your hair grows while you're at the office. So I feel it's reasonable for me to say that if you want to go get a haircut, go. And I looked at him and I was like, oh, well, that's beautiful. And we had a conversation around you do when these things happen, right? Because the truth is that all of these things happen together. My job and business and work doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in the ecosystem of my life. And I feel like this is where Australia a little bit gets a bit more right in South Africa, where they understand there's an ecosystem within which we operate. So it then becomes a conversation. Everything in life is a conversation. To be clear is to be kind. So the conversation goes, if you need to cut your hair during work hours, that's okay. We can make allowance for that. And when you make a commitment, you have to deliver on your commitment. So I did not employ you to have your hair cut every day. I employed you to deliver something. So therefore, I expect you to deliver the something within quality, within time, within budget. Those constraints all still are true and still need to be honored. If we are respectful of our employers, employees, teams, families, whatever, then we can work within those constraints. Because I honestly believe leadership is all about the heart. When we show people that we care about them, if I tell you that if it's important to you, it's important to me. So the fact that you feel like you need to get your hair cut so that you feel better about yourself and show up with confidence and deal with my clients the way that you're supposed to, then please do go get your hair cut. And at the end of the day, you still need to deliver this thing. Now, sometimes that means if you chose to go get your haircut, that you need to stay later because your haircut took longer, because you had a massage as well, and all of these fun things. But we agreed to have this thing out by close of business today. So it has to be out by close of business today. So as long as we are able to honor both the agreements, then it works really well. And we create a culture where we drive excellence because everyone's allowed to show up with their whole self. You don't have to show up as just a robot that just does this thing. You get to all of who you are, and we can make room for who you are and the stuff you go through. And we can, as adults, acknowledge that sometimes I don't feel like doing it. And sometimes I feel like now is not the right time, and I can still do it. So I feel, and that's, I have to caution in this particular space, because there's got to be a maturity in the team, and there's got to be a maturity of the leader to recognize that A, they are dealing with people where it's not a bum and seat situation. And B, if we create this space, you also have to be prepared to have those awkward conversations where people are not honoring the agreement. We can't just give, and then when they don't honor the agreement, step back and just let it go. That's the quickest way you lose your best people. You have to address people who aren't honoring the agreement. So for me, when it comes to the teams, it's about creating the clarity. What do we honor? How do we deliver as a team? And yes, I can make space for those things. I can make space for you to take your child to the doctor, or do this, or get your hair cut, or whatever those things are. As long as the agreement remains, there is still a deliverable that needs to take place within a certain timeline, within a certain budget. And there are consequences having a conversation with Odette if we didn't do those things. So for me, it's clarity, really. How are we showing up? And what are the things that we've agreed? And what do we do when things go wrong? How do we handle those things? I think often leaders don't talk about it because it's an awkward thing, right? And then we wait until it goes wrong. And now it's really awkward because it's now already gone bottoms up. But now I need to have this awkward conversation. Whereas I find that if you have a conversation up front and you go, hey, Dr. J, we agreed that we're going to do these things. If this goes wrong, this is what you can expect. This is what I can expect. I expect you to self-correct. And if it really gets really bad and I come to you and say, look, I think it's time that you have a coffee with Auntie Odette, then you know. You're preparing yourself for this really awkward conversation. You're in trouble. You did something you weren't supposed to do, and you prepare, and you're already ready to do whatever it is you need to do. We have the conversation, we correct, and we move on. Keeping it quiet and not addressing it just makes it worse, I think. So that's how I encourage it in our teams. And that's how we deal with stuff, whether it be at home, at work, or in the teams that we lead. Dr. J.
So may I never have to meet Auntie Odette?
Yes, look, nobody wants to meet Auntie Odette.
And just self-correct in the process.
I've been told I'm scary, and everyone's, I don't want to meet Auntie Odette. And that's good, right? Because
that's the point. That's the whole point of the integration. Is like you say, it's self-correcting. Just because you are able and you can go do your hair and your nails and have time, like you say, take your kids to the doctor, go to the gym in the middle of the day. However you decide to integrate, right? Doesn't mean that deadlines move out. The deadline is still there. You're still supposed to meet it at the end of the day, because the end of the month is still coming. And it doesn't mean that because you can do all these extra things and manage your own time, that the work time is now suddenly going out the window. It means you make up for it in other ways. If you can't make up for it, then you're either not integrating or you're doing too much of the one thing and too little of the other. It's as simple as that. So it's not about balance. It's about getting everything done, integrating the stuff, and still meeting the deadlines, still ticking all the boxes, still getting everything done that needs to get done.
Dr. J, so you don't want to meet Auntie Odette. I see Dwayne's World on Instagram also doesn't want to meet Auntie Odette. Oh, I guess let's do the thing that we were going to do. Then we don't have to meet Auntie Odette. I like that. That's beautiful. So if we don't want to meet Auntie Odette, Dr. J, what practical tips do you have for the audience to improve work-life integration?
I think you've already mentioned some of them, but for me, flexibility is key. Communication is very important, and to prioritize self-care is very important. So if I'm saying being flexible, don't aim for perfection, but aim for synergy between the roles. So make sure that they work together. Like I just said, if The deadline still needs to be met, but make sure that you put some personal time in there for yourself, integrate it. Secondly, they communicate clearly, both with your family and your work team, because you have to set that expectations for support on both sides, but also set the expectation that stuff will still get done. And like you say, not meeting
Mm.
Auntie Odette, making sure that your stuff is in order. I love the example that you've given about your calendar, that everything is in one calendar. Mine is exactly the same because we have to integrate it at the end of the day. Something that I learned from John Maxwell when I met him in 2013 was that he goes at the end of every year, he goes back into his calendar and he sees who must I spend more time with next year and who must I spend less time with next year. And for me, that was such a
Mm.
powerful principle because you and I know that the 5 people you're spending most time with now is the average of what you will be in 5 years from now. Therefore, make sure that you're flexible with your time, the people, your family, everything. Communicate clearly between both of them, family, work, your team, with
Yeah.
supporting all the roles. And then, thirdly, I would say is to prioritize self care. This is a non-negotiable part of your routine because without your personal well-being, work and home will suffer. So at the end of the
Mm.
day, you have to
Yeah.
prioritize that self-care. If you don't take care of yourself, who's going to take care of all the other things? And that's most of the time the thing that we neglect the most. We've got this 1 hour rule in the morning. The kids know, my husband know, is that first hour in the morning is my hour. And it's not me being selfish. It's me taking care of all of you and
Mm.
taking care of me by spending that time in prayer, meditation, however you want to call it. That's my time with God. And that's the time that I use. And they respect that. Why? Because we communicated that. They understand why I'm doing that. And therefore now I can integrate it and obviously be flexible
Yeah.
because there's other times as well. But they know that mommy is taking care of herself so that mommy can take care of us. The team knows that in that time we don't bother Janine because she's busy praying, she's busy getting her stuff in order, she's busy strategizing, and we're getting our stuff done. So, yes, of course,
Yeah.
there's, like you were saying, the gym is part of self care. The exercise, however you do it, it's part of self care because I believe you have to have a strong body in order to have a strong mind. And I've seen that
Mm.
happen in my life. So I'm not just saying these things, Odette. I've practiced it. And I see that I can work longer than other people. I can play longer than other people. Why? Because I'm strong in my body, but I'm also strong in my mind. So that's practical and that's everyday stuff. And part of intentionality that I speak about, those 10 things, how to be intentional to live a rewarding and intentional life, is your taking care of your soul, taking care of your team, taking care of your finances, your mind, your
Mm.
body, and all those things integrated with each other. And it seems like such a big
Mm.
task. But at the end of the day, if you just take your hands like this, we can all count to 10. It's just 10 things you have to do
Yeah.
during the day. It's just 10 things. And it's 10 little
Yes.
things. And the longer you do it, the smaller they become because it becomes part of who you are. It becomes your habits. It becomes your routine.
Yeah.
It brings that consistency that we need in order to achieve all the things that we need to achieve with work, professional, personal, and even spiritual, your family, and all of those things. It just makes it so much easier. So that's how I integrate it. Think about the 10 things of intentionality and incorporate that into your life on a daily basis consistently. It just becomes the major tasks just seems to be becoming smaller and smaller when you just do those things on a daily basis.
I love that. And it's again, it's simple to do. And because it's simple to do, it's also so easy not to do. And the difference between the people who succeed in life and those who don't are the people who know the simple thing and do those simple things consistently over time. It's not, if you think about, and the first day you went to gym, you're exercising and you see no difference. Tomorrow you go back to gym and you still see no difference. Day 3, same deal. So now you're at a crossroad. Do I continue on this path, not sure what's going to happen, or do I stop? The people who are not successful are the people who do the thing 1, 2, 3 times and then go, this is not working, I'm out. The people who are successful because success is guaranteed because they choose not to give up. If you want to
Exactly.
lose weight, then you show up to gym, you do the thing every single day in, day out, whether people support you or not, because over time, your effort compounds and that's how you get what you want. Same with when you're studying, same with if you read 10 pages of a really good book, same with if you meditate and pray every morning. Over time, because you've practiced the muscle, because you've been successful, you just keep showing up, you just do the thing. And by the way, planning to do the thing and talking about the thing is still not doing the thing. You still have to do the thing. So if you're not doing the thing, you're not going to see the results. You're not going to have success. You're not going to integrate. You have to go do those 10 things. And the more you do them, the easier it gets, the simpler it gets.
Yeah, I love what Tian says. It's my personal trainer that helps me to get a strong body. He always says that, what is this thing with the 6 weeks better body? Is in what life does it work like that? It's a long-term thing. It's a lifelong thing.
Yeah.
Because after 6 weeks, if you stop and you just go back to your old life, you lose that body that you couldn't even build. It's a marketing gimmick. And life and people speak about that often. It's a marketing gimmick. Come here, get your summer body. You don't come and get your summer body. You work for a summer body.
No.
And by the way,
Yes.
summer bodies are built in winter. It's exactly the same as
Yes.
success. Is you build success when nobody's looking. You build success in those late nights and those early mornings when nobody's looking and it's constantly happening. You can't come and fetch your
Mm.
summer body and think you're going to just look great or come and fetch your summer business. There's no such thing. It's consistency. It's that integration of all the things and it's always happening. It's the habit. It's continuous the whole time and healthy habits. Here's a book I read and I can't remember the name now. It will come to me just now, but the author speaks about habit stacking. And I love that because he was saying that what you do is the one good habit eventually builds on the next habit, builds
Yeah.
on the next. So you're stacking your good habits. And what happens eventually, it creates this flow or this momentum of happy habits in your life at the end of the day that creates this integration work life. And like we said in the beginning, is there's so many people that struggles with their marriage but has great business success or as a great marriage and a great family life, but they're always in lack. And when we practice these
Mm.
things of habit stacking, intentionality, and bringing all these things together, then all of a sudden we realize that we can live with fulfillment and we can have success on all the areas of our lives. Yes, it might take longer to get there because now you're doing a lot of things at the same time, but it's so worth it at the end, getting there and everybody's happy, everybody's fulfilled, then getting to the top and realizing I'm the only one here. That's a very lonely road anyway, Odette. But let me ask you this, Odette, is if our audience could take away one key message from our conversation today about work-life integration, what would you want that to be?
Work-life integration is seasonal. If you walk away with nothing else but the word seasonal, I'd be happy because there will be times where your business, your studies, your professional career demands more than your family and vice versa. And if you commit to focus and be present in the moment, you said it in the very beginning, if you can just be present in that moment, then move on to the next thing and clearly communicate, then we create a harmonious space. It's seasonal because December's coming. And guess what, guys? You're going to come onto my stuff and you won't find me because that will be incognito. I'll be focusing on the beach and the palm trees and the fun things. And then when school goes back and it's back to normal, the focus will be elsewhere. There are seasons in life where you have to focus on one thing over the other. There are also seasons where everything works really well together and it's integrated and we're happy and it's beautiful. I read something interesting this morning, Job 5, and it says, the troubles we face is due to the human condition. And I was like, yeah, yes, there will be times where you face challenges.
I like that idea and I agree with you. There's definitely going to be times where we face challenges. And I want people to realize that true fulfillment comes from seeing your personal and professional lives as part of a greater whole. It's not about just finding balance, but creating a life where both aspects flow into each other, building on our passions and our purpose, not just the one, our passions and our purpose. That includes family, that includes work. And when you integrate these areas intentionally, you don't feel torn, you feel whole as a person. And I think that comes down to the work life integration. Is there's so many challenges in this world, and there's so many challenges at work and family. But if you in turn, like Odette said, is if you in turn embrace these things intentionally and integrate these areas, you don't feel torn, but you feel whole at the end of the day. It's about fulfillment in our personal lives, but also fulfillment in our personal life. So thank you for that, Odette. I really love that. That's such a great point. And just say that part of Job again, because I think that comes down to accountability. That was just brilliant.
Yeah, he said that the challenges of life are due to our human condition.
Exactly.
For if
We
all
are
face
just
challenges.
intentional. Exactly. That is like the cherry on the cake. That's so beautifully said. And so, yeah, exactly with that is it's we cause sometimes most of those challenges. So if we can be intentional about how we live our everyday, we would lessen the challenges in our lives so much and have it just so much easier. And that's why I said it comes down to the one thing is that you don't feel torn, you feel whole as a person and you're living a whole, happy and fulfilled life at the end of the day when you integrate these things. So thank you, Odette. That's brilliant.
Dr. J, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights on integration and intentionality and how we get to live an amplified, beautiful life on purpose, whether it's in business, in your family, or even in your career. If you enjoyed today's episode, give us a subscribe to the show. If you have any questions or you have any comments, please pop them in the comment section below. If you're watching the replay, #replay, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. J. Thank you for those watching live and those watching afterwards. We'll see you next time. Take care.